How can you add sour broth to a dessert? I found it interesting, so I thought I'd give it a try. Hi, I'm Robert. Some friends were looking for a crescent pastry recipe, but couldn't really find one, or it didn't turn out well, so I decided to make my own and show them how it's done. Since my grandmother didn't leave me any recipe notebooks and my mother didn't either, I went, like any baker would, to a more experienced baker and got the crescent pastry recipe from Mircea Banu. His recipe includes sour broth, which honestly is why I chose it, because it sounded really unusual. I've never used sour broth in my life. Where I'm from, Petroșani, we use sour cream to make soup more sour. Today I'll show you how it's done. Not that you couldn't go read it directly from him, and I'll leave the link to his recipe in the video description, but sometimes seeing it helps even more. Let's get started. I've halved his recipe, so today we'll make 30 crescent pastries. We start with some yeast, 10 grams of fresh yeast, which we put in a bowl. Add 100 grams of sour broth. I used some from Lidl since I didn't know where to get any. 90 grams of oil, a vanilla essence, and the zest of a large lemon or 2 small ones. We mix it a bit with a whisk, just enough to dissolve the yeast well. Next, we add 250 grams of flour, and here I recommend using low gluten flour, meaning one with lower protein. We mix just enough to combine, but not too much, because we don't want to knead the dough and develop gluten. We want it to stay soft. Mr. Mircea says to slap the dough on the table a few times. You'll see that after a few slaps, it looks a bit smoother and more cohesive, and then we stop. The idea here is, as I said, not to knead or develop gluten. A little gluten will form through the slapping method, but the strains are shorter, making the dough softer. I had a bit of trouble with the slapping part since I wasn't exactly sure how to do it. I think I'm doing it right, we'll see. If we get some nice crescent pastries, but give me some tips. How can I slap the dough better? Cover with plastic wrap and let it rest in the fridge for an hour. We'll then divide this dough along the longer side, where it's 45 centimeters, into 15 centimeter sections, and on the other side into 5 sections. Then, using a pizza cutter is the easiest way to divide it. So 5 and 3 gives us 15 rectangles, which we'll cut in half to get 30 crescent pastries. For the filling, obviously, you can use whatever you like. Jam, Turkish delight, walnuts, and so on. The only thing is, if you use jam, make sure it's a thick one, otherwise it will seep out the pastry while baking. I processed some apricot jam with pistachio pieces until the pistachio were finely chopped, forming a thick paste mixed with the jam, and I'll use about 5 grams of filling per triangle. Then comes the fun part, forming the pastries. Take one of the triangles, fold the sides over the filling and press to seal them well. Then roll it up, keeping the layers of the dough thin, so the finished pastry will be very soft. Give it a bit of a crescent shape at the end, or not. Bake 30 crescent pastries at 160 degrees for 20-25 minutes, but keep an eye on the color. They should be lightly golden. At the end, roll them in powdered sugar right after baking, or not, and they're ready to serve. Of course, they're the best after they cool. Hope you enjoyed them. They're very soft, and let me know in the comments if you found the recipe interesting, tried it, and if you liked it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time as usual. Bye bye! For more recipes like this, don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, and join me on Instagram for lots of useful tips.